So that guy's working all day.
That you?
No, I already put mine in silent, I thought.
I just put mine down. I wanna get caught.
Yeah, still.
We've had enough issues this morning already, so.
You got my text.
Huh?
You got my text.
This morning? No.
Oh, I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to be here right on time because.
Oh, okay. I had a nice little pile of oil on one of my big tractor this morning, so I was kind of. Nothing major, but just. Can't get to it till Thursday, but it's gonna be a tape. Almost.
Probably.
Yeah. Fixable. This breaks. Thursday.
Everything out of the field.
Yeah, it's those actually partners. We need about, we should be done. Beads. Thursday. Oh, breaks.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee of the Whole to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Jazinski.
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Marino. Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chairman, except for Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comments on agenda items only, limited to 3 minutes. We have no presentations or special reports. We have a few appointments to boards and commissions. And then under committee reports, under Finance Committee, Committee of the Whole, we have 4 business items, and then item number 5 is discussion regarding the Isabella County Administration Building. We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business, no new business. We'll have general public comment again towards the end of the meeting and then announcements. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Jelezinski.
Support. Moved by Jelezinski, supported by Weber. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have an agenda and next general public comment. Is there anyone for general public comment? Anyone online? I see them. Okay. Seeing no one for general public comment, we'll move right down to appointments to boards and commissions, and item A. Consider appointing 1 member to the Department of Health and Human Services Medical Care Facility for a 3-year term ending October 31st, 2028, or until a successor is appointed. We have 1 applicant for that vacancy, Mary Myler Hunter, who is an incumbent. So very appreciative of these folks, especially when they re-up their appointment. We don't have to go look for somebody new to fill it. But we'll move that item to next week's meeting. And item B is consider appointing 2 members to Isabella County Veterans Affairs Committee for a 4-year term ending June 1st, 2029, or until a successor is appointed. And we have 2 applicants for those 2 positions, Russ Allwood and Robert Denslow. So we will also move that item to next week's board meeting.
And those are incumbents.
Yes, those are incumbents. Yep. Appreciate those folks. Item C is consider appointing Jill Borland to the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Workforce Development Board for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027, or until a successor is appointed. And Jill Borland does have a letter of recommendation from the Community Foundation,
Mount Pleasant Area Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Yep. So we will move that item also to next week's board meeting. Brings us down to committee reports. And Finance Committee, Committee of the Whole, item 1, consider ratifying and placing on file the October 17th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $275,962.46. The October 24th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $206,392.74. And the adjustment list dated October 16th, 2025. Administrator Smith, you want to walk us through? this?
Yes, please. For the October 17th, 2025 invoice list of $275,962.46. The general portion of that amount is $50,672.52. This list was presented to the Board of Commissioners prior to this meeting for their review and any questions that they may have had. On this top page is all the invoices that are over $5,000 that may want to be looked at closer by the board. Some of these are the Advanced Benefit Solutions payment for the monthly international and 90-day prescriptions of $29,118.18. We've had a water heater replacement for the Commission on Aging of $12,396.05. And then Isabella Bank, $22,050 for bond interest payment from the Drains Office. And then 3 larger items for the trial court, for supervised care, for day treatment, monthly contract, and public defender appointments.
Okay, any questions on the October 17th?
What was the expense for Spicer Group?
That expense was for engineering service related to the drains.
Any other questions?
Next up is the October 24th, 2025 invoice list of $206,392.74. The general fund portion of this is $90,256.33. The larger items on the first page, again, includes Advanced Benefit Solutions of $22,534.78 for monthly dental and vision insurance. We have the first quarter appropriations for community mental health for $54,075. First quarter appropriation to Middle Michigan Development in the amount of $11,395. HATS, then we have manpower, then we have a parks purchase for a mower of $14,300, and then 2 items related to the treasurer's office.
Any questions on the October 24th list?
Next is the adjustments list from October 16th, 2025. This is the list that's prepared of invoices that were paid in advance to avoid late fees or to get an early payment discount, and also to correct any errors that might have been made in the entry of invoices. There were 2 minor errors made on this that shows up on your sheet, and the rest are your typical Consumers Energy and Gordon Food Service related items and Wind Telecom, all to avoid late fees and or to get early payment discounts.
Any questions on the adjustment list? Okay. We'll move those items to next week's meeting, and item 2 is consider approving the early termination agreement and early termination payment in the amount of $2,722.50 between Isabella County and CMS Internet LLC, and authorize board chairperson to sign the same.
Good morning.
Get us, good morning.
So this is a 3-year agreement that my predecessor signed in for. With all the fire departments now transitioning over to 800 megahertz, we do not need the VHF system anymore. So therefore, I'm coming in to terminate that contract, so I don't have to pay the remaining 1.5-year contract for a tower lease that we no longer utilize. So requested that I get a signature by the board chair to terminate the contract and we can move forward with that.
The 27-22, that's to pay to terminate it.
Yep, yeah, that's half the cost.
Sure,
of the-
gotcha.
The remaining lease, so they worked with us a little bit on that, so that was nice of them.
And that's the one on Monday Hill.
Yep, yep.
Good question.
Yeah,
So I know in the narrative, it said that the tower was being maintained in case the 800 megahertz tower fails. Is there a likelihood of that or?
Well, with the redundant system that we have in place with the tower at dispatch and the tower in Beale City and us connected to the Midland Tower in the south, that's all redundant now. So we have redundancy in the pathways for the 800 megahertz. So something drastically would have to happen if they would cut that link. So before we only had the one tower, where that's why we kept the backup for the VHF system, because if that one tower the link got cut, then the fire department was down. But now that we have all three together, linked together, it's all redundant. Also, we feel confident that we can get rid of the VHF system altogether.
Okay.
okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
We'll move that to next week's regular board meeting. And item 3 is consider approving the Region 7 Area Agency on Aging purchase of service provider agreement along with the addendums and the business associate agreement, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Director Crawford is not here.
She is not here. This is an agreement that's come from the board since 1999. There are basically two waiver agencies in the community, one is AD and Health, that provides services to clients is that the Commission on Aging cannot provide, but we can provide the meals. So as part of this arrangement, they take care of the needs and then we provide the meals under this arrangement. And last year, I believe $18,000 was received in fiscal year 25 in this agreement.
Any questions on that? Seeing none, we will also move that item to next week's meeting. And item 4 is consider approving the amendment to travel policy number 250 as presented to extend the reimbursement submission period from 30 days to 60 days.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
So this policy hasn't been revisited in quite some time for our travel policy. Also in my history here at Isabella County, I know that this has always been, not always been enforced by the 30 days because it didn't make sense. For example, on some of, COAs and, volunteers, they have monthly reimbursements is how they turn their stuff in. If we held them to 30 days, they would always be late getting them in. So it just never made sense. And we decided to revisit this and extend it out to 60 days. 60 days still covers us from an audit standpoint for our accrual period at the end of the year. Gives some leeway, helps the parks employees out as well who have really small reimbursements. So a lot of times they'll turn theirs and would rather turn them in quarterly even. This isn't going to allow for that, but at least they'll give them 60 days. That way we're not forcing someone to turn in a reimbursement for $3. You know, it makes more sense for the county. It makes more sense for our employees and our volunteers. So we've never had an issue as far as travel reimbursements when it comes to, say, getting reimbursed for, say, parking fees or lodging or meals or things like that. We've really never had an issue with sticking with a 30-day reimbursement on that. Typically, when somebody travels, they turn their stuff in right away. It's just these mileage reimbursements, especially for our volunteers and our employees for just normal doing business for the county. So just asking that is the, on page 4 of the policy. That is the only part that we would change is strictly would go from, you know, just that part would go from 30 days to 60 days. Any questions for me?
No, I'll just say that if that's been the practice and the practice makes sense, then we should.
Time to
the
change it.
Policy to reflect that.
Yes, sir.
practice.
Yes.
Makes sense, thank you.
Right.
We'll move that item to next week's meeting, and down to item 5, discussion regarding Isabella County Administration Building.
So at the last meeting, was presented a contract for a design bid with Spicer. That was taken off the agenda, so I put it on the agenda today so that the board can have a discussion on next steps to move forward, with this. And so this was just a placeholder, and the discussion is open to the board on how you would like to proceed.
So, anybody else?
Go ahead, you go first. Then.
Okay. So we had a similar contract last year. We were going to refurbish 2 floors, leave 1 floor vacant to lease out. As we worked through that, some of us came to the realization that didn't really make sense to try to cram everyone into 2 floors for the possibility of being able to lease a floor out. So basically leaving a floor empty, thinking that maybe we can lease it out. So we asked Spicer to come up with another plan to do all 3 floors. That first plan also included rehabbing some of the old jail, mostly for storage. So that section closest to the county building was built in the 90s, structurally solid. There isn't much there as far as utilities and such. There were dormitory style cells on that end. We were going to refurbish that into storage, build kind of a connector. And we thought, let's see a plan to just redo the county building 3 floors, so we're not all crammed into 2. Forget about the old jail. So we did that. And that's what we received on October 10th for design bid build, preliminary design, construction documents, bidding and construction administration. That contract from Spicer has a price tag of $297,000. The one last year to do the other plan that I talked about, the same MO, design bid build, preliminary design, construction documents, bidding and construction administration. That same contract for that plan was $162,000. Quite a difference.
And on that one that was 162, like, we're coming in, that was before us. But the floor plan, did somebody give them ideas? Because it seemed kind of silly, some of the offices were too big for what they are, and the other ones were too small. Like a kitchen in the extension, stuff like that. And the layout seemed kind of odd,
Yeah.
There was discussion with department heads. There was also disagreement between architects but there was communication back and forth. Is what I'll say.
There was.
and that's why I was curious, because some of it, just seemed odd to me.
It was odd, and we had we were trying to save money. We had everybody crammed into 2 floors. Leave 1 floor that we could possibly lease, who knows? It just didn't make sense, and most of the department heads were not terribly happy about being squeezed into 2 floors. It just, the more we thought about it, I think the more we realized it made more sense to forget about the old jail building, just concentrate on the county building and do all 3 floors. Give everybody enough room to function. We did that. The price from Spicer and I will say Spicer's been great to work with, and they spent quite a bit of time with department heads on space planning and stuff. But the cost difference between the 2 is pretty dramatic. Went from 162 last year to 297 this year, which leads me to the conclusion that maybe we should put that out for an RFP. To look at.
Yeah, I talked to a
Design
few
bid
builders off the record and they thought they could design it substantially cheaper than that, local.
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Maybe they can, we'll see what we get back.
Sure.
Maybe we
Yeah.
stay with Spicer.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got the best.
You know, they were just doing estimates off the plans.
Sure.
for
Right.
those, right? So we were gonna put it out for bid and get, you know, a strong estimate from the contractors back, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, it's kind of jumping the gun before they see
for sure, yes.
see that and, you
It was
know,
kind of a preliminary idea of what the cost
right.
would be.
But we have to make plans on what they estimate, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
And you always want the estimates to be a little higher because you don't want to be surprised on the back end of it, but, yeah, so I think, you know, and we do have to, recognize it's been 2 years since they've been sitting in, our employees have been in
yeah,
substandard conditions, I would say. We had to start over. I think we had to start over because a lot of these questions, first of the year, when you had 2 new commissioners, I said you gotta do administrator, so we actually started over and spent a lot of time going through all the different options.
Right.
Some of them were kind of, even though we didn't think that was the right thing to do, we had contractors tell us, oh, we could build a brand new building out at the jail, so other people said, oh, you're crazy, it's not gonna do so, that's why it took time, we wanted to go through all our options.
yep,
You seen what the estimates were on out there, and that's just crazy, insane. The other thing is that when we started looking at the building and everything, and anybody was in the old building, if you're on one floor, you're either too hot and the next floor would be too cold, and then because all the HVAC system was on floors, looking into it, the way to do it is apt quarterly, where you do all 3 quarterlies or thirds,
yeah,
so you can regulate all them. Also, you know, the windows, if you're gonna, the windows are, you're losing a lot, there's a lot of tax advantage in there, so. You know, I've heard, well, you do 1 floor or something like that, but, you really gotta do the HVAC system for all the floors to make it efficient, same way with the windows, you don't wanna replace part of
The windows have to go anyway.
But then there's
The windows
tax,
are,
yeah, there's tax credits for DTE though, are pretty substantial for energy savings, so.
Yes.
I know a year and a half ago, we had a committee, I think there was about 12 people on it, looking at the same question, whether to build new. We determined at that time we couldn't afford to build new, that we needed to stay with our footprint, and Spicer did come up with a floor plan of using 2 and I think maybe a portion of the 3rd floor. But I know we talked about the possibility of finding rental, but I don't think that was one of our primary objectives. I think one of our primary objectives was just to be able to keep it in budget. And that's why we settled basically on 2 floors, and some of the criticism from departments and offices was that they wanted a second exit for security. And we kind of looked at that, and the second exit would still put you out in the same hallway if there was a gunman out there, not give you a whole lot of protection. But I think our primary motivation back then was to be able to keep it in budget, which at that time we were setting aside $750,000 was our forecast to repay that bond. And I know we have 500,000 in the current budget. Doesn't mean we can't change that if we can find the funds, but that's gonna be a big motivator. Can we afford 3 floors? And
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I think anything we do, we've got to see that worked into a long-range budget forecast.
Well, right now we have 500,000 and I just put it in based on interest only on a potential bond, with principal not starting until the next fiscal year, but we also have close to 300,000 in rent. So you get the 300,000 in rent, in which we would not be paying, plus the 500,000 that's already baked in the budget. We have 800,000 right now kind of put in for long-term forecasting as we move forward on this.
Good point.
And where we're at right now is our leases are short term, we could be kicked out anytime, we'd have moving costs, you know, we're still required for maintenance on the lease project, so. If we could find a place that was fill our needs and lease it for 30 years without increasing, that'd be great. I haven't found that yet, so. Somebody's out there for it. Sheriff.
Yeah. So just for the new commissioners and Brian and stuff, just a reminder, you know, between the 2 floors and the 3.5 or the third or half floor and the third, you have the prosecutor's office in there and you have the probation parole in there. Separating those 2 groups of people is a critical factor that really needs to be thought about. That's a recipe for disaster. Not only some bond condition, potentially violations, but just the mere fact of thinking the 2 different groups are integrated in a very small space is a dangerous thing. So just keep that in mind when I know it's going to be dictated by funding and money is available, but I think the reason that 3rd floor or a portion of that 3rd floor is very important is to separate those 2 groups out for security and safety. And that will be an issue if we can't do that. So.
That last 2 floor, yeah, they were down, so that was one of the reasons we went to the 3rd floors.
Yep.
The prosecutors up there.
Just don't know if the new commissioners, everybody kind of understood that's a big factor in the safety, security of that building. So.
Thank you.
And that's some of the discussions about leasing is security is where it's not where it should be, the new build, leasing.
Right.
We
If
have
you
no
get somebody to
security.
build to lease within the region, and I've talked to a few people that too, and that needs to be prohibitive for what we could actually do what we got, so.
So would everybody be comfortable with the direction of putting out an RFP for a design bid build?
I think that'd be a good idea.
And so kind of mirroring preliminary design, construction documents and bidding and construction administration. So I will work with Miklos, who's done many of these as well, and Steve Shoemaker and probably Tim Report if he wants to assist on this. So that way we can come up with a scope on the RFP that makes sense to everyone. And so getting us together and getting it done, I think we get it put out fairly reasonable time frame, and then give 30 days to bid and then time to kind of go through the bids and everything else at that point. It's going to delay the project, but I think this is going to be a more transparent and more straightforward process for everyone.
And then when we have actual numbers that we actually know what, then we could do comparisons as far as budgeting forward and what comparisons to at least compared to that. Right now, we have a lot of estimates and guesstimates and spreadsheets, but
Yeah.
but they are guesses at this point, so to get some.
We're not gonna have actual for a long time.
Not until we get a general
Right.
contractor.
If they don't contact her, then we've got plans, and then those gotta go for bid, and then we'll get back. So,
And bid, interest rates may keep going down, and then the bid costs may go down, the bond cost may go down, who knows? But at the same time, you might have increases of labor and materials, and I think Tim had
Is it possible for the board to establish some sort of timeline? I know that there's a lot of moving parts in this still, but to establish a timeline, I think it's gonna really help staff see that light at the end of the tunnel, because they've been at it for 2 years. We're hearing a lot from staff. If you haven't visited my office, come on down. Alexis or I will take you for a little tour around how we operate these days. Been with the county 30 years. The last 2 have been the most difficult by far. But having a timeline, just giving a little light at the end of the tunnel. I know things changed this last meeting, but we went back to staff after a department head meeting and said, here's what we're looking at, here's where they're moving. And then it was pulled from the agenda, and I had a lot of staff, not only in my office, but a couple other departments that were just like, the level versed again for them. They just want to kind of get a little glimmer down this timeline. And if we're 2 years more out, that's fine. But that's 4 years in the conditions that we've been working in. But just some sort of a light at the end of the tunnel would be great.
I think that's a good idea, kind of timeline, and A timeline is a little bit like a budget. It's a living document. Sometimes you need to adjust it, but at least you have something that you're going by. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's definitely something we can put together. Thanks for that. Appreciate that comment. And I do think we looked at new, we got a price from Spence Brothers. The cost was like $444 a square foot. And I mean, we could probably build something new cheaper than that. But I don't think we can build something new as cheap as we can refurbish the building we had. We've got a structurally sound building sitting there. It's been abated. It's ready to rebuild. And the other problems with building new is, you know, you need property. If we do it on our property, that's outside the city. So then there's issues with moving out of the county seat. I really think at this point, it makes sense to focus on the building that we have and get it rebuilt. Yes, sir.
Read an internet story this morning that they expect the Federal Reserve to 0.25% cut in interest rates. I don't know how that would impact the project, but I want to apologize to administration. We had somebody up from public speaking at our last meeting, and they asked for commissioners to raise their hand. And I think it was in regard to whether or not we received any information. And I don't think, well, there was no hands raised, and I didn't raise mine because that's interaction, which is good reason not to interact. But I know as a personal commissioner, I hadn't received anything in terms of finances or drawings related to the building. Now, I know it's on vacation, so maybe I could have missed it, but I'm thinking I wasn't the only commission, which then the impassioned response from the individual who was doing the public speaking basically was that she was lied to. Because I think one of the things in the original FOIA administration said it hadn't been shared with commissioners yet. Well, for me, it hadn't been shared. And I probably should have spoke up at that time instead of letting administration, you know, have to take the lumps. The only other thing I'd say, I think it would have been nice if we'd have had a citizens committee, because the people that come up, they're looking at it as something in-house that we're just driving what we want. Maybe it's not necessary. But I think if we'd have had a citizens committee, and maybe it's still not too soon to have somebody bring people out from the outside to review the plans, I think it would demonstrate to the public that we are working in their best interests on this project. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that idea. We do have Mr. Ferber, who's volunteered his time quite graciously, and we thank him for that. But having another citizen on the committee is not a terrible idea, I don't think.
I don't think so either. I agree with you on that. But I would like to see us move forward as far as the design build contract to open that up for bid. To see what comes back to the board, other opportunities from other contractors. I don't think we should limit it to just one. And my other concern is how the bond is written. That's very crucial. I mean, everybody thinks of a bond as just one entity, but it's multiple entities, and it determines on a prevailing wage and what we're responsible for paying for. It can be broken up into different sectors in that bond where we are not responsible for paying the prevailing wage. And that could save the county an astronomical amount of money. So I think we need to have someone that is very familiarized in regards to how bonds are written and how we pursue that bond moving forward. That could save the county a huge portion that we would possibly be paying out. The other thing is, we keep talking about the jail still on the property. The jail could become a source of revenue. Putting it on the market, selling it. That's an option that we need to explore to help offset the cost of renovations. I don't know if there is any properties that the county just holds that we could look at possibly putting those on the market as well. I'm just trying to explore different options to help offset the expense of renovations. I know that this is going to be a very costly venture for the county to do, but I also think, people have said, well, you guys need to start exploring other options as far as the new build. We have looked at the new build. We know what the square footage cost is going to be, and it's astronomical compared to renovating of the old building. What about leasing? There again, leasing, we're just throwing our money out the window. I mean, we're in that position right now by renting locations in order to house the employees, in order for them to do their jobs. But we're also at the mercy of those companies that we rent from. We are also responsible for, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but if something goes down in one of these buildings that we're leasing, a furnace, an AC unit, the county is on the hook for replacement of that, correct?
Correct.
So I don't want to hinder this process any longer than what it needs to be, but I also wanted to open it up to other people to come back with pricing, because we're not spending our money, we're spending the taxpayers' money. And we also, I feel that the prints and everything, the layout, is a great way of moving forward. But I think we need to get a little bit more feedback from some of the county employees to make sure that the space is properly being utilized. Or maybe we can cut costs in certain areas where certain departments don't need closed off walls, and we look at possibly cubicle sections. Everybody says, well, cubicle sections are way more expensive than just building a permanent wall. No, that is not so. You think about cubicle section, everything is there, desk, furniture, the whole 9 yards. Are we going to utilize the furniture that we have in storage? Can we utilize the furniture that we have in storage? Or do we just get rid of it and put it on the open market for sale? I don't know if that furniture is considered, since it was in a structure that was abated.
The building where the tiles, ceiling tiles
Correct.
were, I mean, obviously the air is good there, and not in the storage areas where there weren't tiles, they had to be closed off. Right?
Okay.
So, and if there is a concern, you can do wipe tests on furniture, but everything was, things were tested as they were taken out by the company. I don't know how thoroughly they did any, or if
Right.
they did any furniture, but I know that they were doing files and stuff, but I would think from the tests that the furniture would be fine, and we could talk to Steve.
I would rather address that now
Yeah.
instead of halfway into.
I think the assumption is that we were going to use the furniture.
Okay.
Some of it.
So I think.
Well,
There's
It was-
there's some steel case, but most of it's probably not.
To the air hanger. It is
Some of the
horrible.
cheaper wood products that were in
Okay.
there, those will not survive. If you ever had college kids that move them around, they don't.
And
Once you move them.
I would like to bring the sheriff up if we could. In regards to the jail, what can we do and what cannot we do moving forward? Because I do know that you have to utilize a portion of that structure. Is that a portion that we can close off and then sell the rest? How would that work?
So originally, when we put the new facility out on Remus Road, the goal and the plan was to take the old jail off the property, demolish it, take it up. The USDA funding did not allow us to do that because the medium income and that whole thing. So we just kind of cut that off, and it, you know, was like $3 million at the time, I think, to tear it down. In that plan, though, when they tore, where we were gonna tear it down, we were going to build a Sally Port secured entrance to where the tunnel's at for the court. And we do have to have that. We can't walk inmates through the front doors of the court. That's never gonna be a thing. So currently, we're still utilizing the Sally Port that exists at 207. And we walk them back through, we call it, you know, if they've been in there, the Green Mile, take the trip through the Green Mile back to where the tunnel is, and then the bailiffs, you know, pick them up at that point. So whatever the process is, we either have to build something over in that corner that gets us access in a garage. We don't need, the original one had housing, you know, like cells to put them in temporarily. Those all exist at the court. We're not using those right now. I don't think we're ever gonna need that. We just need it. So we need a garage to pull in, bring them out, put them into the hallway where the elevator is, bailiffs take them and they go to the court. So that can be done pretty easily, but that does have to be a piece of that component. So currently we're using this long hallway, but it walks through the entire building basically to get there. If there's another option to do something off around where the dumpsters used to be or something over in that corner, I don't know. So that'd be, you know, a lot of engineering discussions and different things, but we still need to get to that tunnel. So yes and no, we just need a garage and the ability to get to that little hallway where the elevator is.
Okay.
So potentials, yes, potential options, but yeah.
There was one more aspect to the original design, and that was to put in a connector piece between the court building so that we could have everybody go through security, and then they'd split and either go to the court building or into the county building. So I mean, I think in the design, that should be in the design thoughts, because it's nothing we can do probably in my life, the rest of my lifetime, but at some point in time, it makes sense to have a common entrance that all people are scanned before they have a chance to access other portions of the building. And we also looked at the footprint of the jail being parking, because we're really short on parking around our buildings, so.
I know going around a lot of the other counties and going to their commissioner's room and everything. Both of them, we go through security before we can go to their commissioner room or go to the administration. So it's kind of interesting. I don't think I've been to any of them that hasn't. We had to, you know, go through some sort of security, but.
When you can see all like schools, even, you know, I do a lot of AVI or active violent incident training in businesses, and they're all working on, you know, putting the big boulders out front, right? They look good, but it's because you can't drive through the front doors, right? Or doing man traps, so you got to go through 2 layers of doors. I mean, every design, every build, every retrofit has security built into it. And it really should be the top priority just in the environment of our world right now, that security is a big topic, so.
Good point. Thank you. I think, Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a couple points. So there was a question about department heads, elected officials being part of the planning process. We were asked to provide some written documentation of what our needs would be. We also met, I think, in this room, separate tables with Spicer, and kind of went over what our needs would be for the building. We did review plans after that, made some suggestions, but that's sort of where I think we got cut off. Then we didn't hear anything after that. And then with regard to the furniture and it being contaminated now, I hope it's not, because the air quality was tested while we were all still in that building after the announcement of needing abatement, and we all moved those out of that building. We were told that there were don't touch ceiling tiles. We were told to avoid three areas, I think, or two or three areas. The area on the third floor where the files were that did have ceiling tile, that needed some additional abatement, and then the boiler room. So I think the report showed air quality was good in the cavity areas that we were, which I think would say that the air quality being good wouldn't have any residual on that furniture.
I think that's true, and I'd have to go back and look, but I think they did some wipe testing on the
They
furniture
may have,
before
I
it
don't
came
remember
out.
that. But I just want to make those 2 points.
Yep, and anything that came out of those areas you're talking about that didn't have ceiling tile was cleaned before it came out.
When it came out of the building, yep, that was all left and then cleaned after we were all out of it.
Yeah, Kathleen.
So the furniture we're currently using right now was in the building. So if there was any issues with it, we're still using it. So there's that.
Right.
And I think we can probably anticipate that not much of that furniture is gonna be usable. It had a rough go getting out of that building. And a lot of, I mean, we have doors that don't shut. We have, the upper things that don't open and close. So I think we need to anticipate that we're not gonna bring a lot of that furniture back, especially if we don't know what spacing we're gonna have. So I would think that you're gonna have to anticipate a budget for furniture.
Which then needs to be rolled into this project then.
Correct.
And I think the item that you're talking about, as far as like the size of the offices. Early on, I verified with Spicer that they are taking the recommendations or the discussions with the different departments when they incorporated it into this last design and stuff. So I think that should be incorporated with it. But again, when we do the RFP, we'll ensure that before the final drawings are sent out for bids for general contractor, that each department has the opportunity to review that final set of architectural plans to make sure that everybody's on the same page and nobody is surprised. If they need double doors getting out, if they need doors between the clerks and deeds office, and how's that gonna look, and just the different things that were incorporated after meeting with the departments. I think we want to ensure that that is still in the final.
And if they can give us longer than 20 minutes, because that's what we were given when they presented the layout to us. 25.
I'll give you a 20, get that extra 5. So yes,
Yeah.
yes, I want to make, we want to make sure that
We'll give you one night to sleep on it.
that this is all like, you have a chance beforehand, getting a copy of it as well, instead of just, here you go, here it is, you got 20 minutes to review it and question it. So hopefully we can get something out to you prior. You can then make your notes, and then you can use that time more optimally when you're meeting with the company.
So I know, Jerry brought it up, like my biggest gripe was, I need 2 doors to get out. We've always had 2 doors in the old building. Not just a shooter, but if someone wanted to set our entry where they have us meeting people at on fire, there's no other door for us to get out. And currently those windows don't open and shut, and Spicer didn't know if the new ones were going to be able to or not either. So, the safety of the employees is also something that we need to think about.
And I think the last concept, it did include
for
the
everything.
extra doors for all,
Fire department.
in all of
And
the
they're like
office
10
areas.
too.
So that did include that for all the offices.
That was part of the discussion. So, going forward, I think, I can speak for the board as far as giving our administrators some direction as far as priorities, getting the RFP off, getting that started, get back as soon as
Yeah.
possible. So
Yes.
that doesn't need to be a motion. It's a directive to prioritize that, and let's get that going. So.
So
Am I
Did you
speaking
have your
correct?
hand up?
Tim kind of touched on this, but I thought I remembered too that we had written. And I think some of it was approached as, a wish list and we're doing a design, but some of it was also what are your critical needs? And we had written those out, and those were provided to probably the prior administrator and Spicer. I think we could probably find those or generate them again if we did work with a new contractor. But one of the points I wanted to make was also then, if that information is provided to the board, you can answer questions like if the community is questioning, one of the things that stuck out to me is like, why would there be a kitchen in MSU Extension? Well, they might have a grant funded program where they're doing nutrition education, and so they needed that space in their office. And so even for just the community's understanding of why we're maybe putting something that doesn't look like it needs to be there. I think all the department heads would be happy to provide that information on whatever level is helpful on.
Appreciate that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So I'm under some heat as county clerk right now, with FOIA and then another one coming in from this larger group. They want me to find out at what meeting some of these decisions were made, and like the new building rendering, they want me to find the minutes to where it was released. This is how much the new building's gonna be. This is, what it's gonna look like, and the vote of the board saying, nope, we're not going that route. We're going to go this route.
That was sent off to legal for their opinion on what.
So it
It's
was
FOIA,
never
yeah.
made a vote. It was never made.
We
in-
were, I think we
Well,
were
it's all with
Yeah.
legal, it's all.
legal, yeah.
It's all with legal. I presented that FOIA to legal, with an explanation. This is what they're looking for, and I'm waiting legal's opinion on that FOIA.
Okay.
So I would hesitate to say anything until legal gets back.
All right.
Sorry, Chairman.
No, I could
My
explain
name is
all
on
of it,
Just
makes sense, but
communicate that with
Yeah,
me
okay.
because-
Are you sure?
no,
Well,
it sounds good right now.
Well, typically it should just go right to FOIA to that, so that way we have it centrally located, but okay.
I won't give me my stump speech anyways.
Okay, yes, sir.
So where we're at on the 10-year projection, because I think that's gonna be very important, at least for me, before I make a decision.
Are we waiting for the accruals to get back on to finalize?
Yeah, I mean, until we at least get through our 60-day accrual process at our year end, we wouldn't have accurate numbers.
When we wouldn't have accurate numbers through the fiscal year 25 until December 1. On that, at the earliest.
At the earliest.
So,
If there's no way to even do a ballpark figure, because I know it's a tool that will keep evolving and changing over time.
Sure, but if we were to run it right now, we have another 30 days that we're gonna accrue, 30 days and some change. Could greatly change that.
And then is that a good use of your time?
Exactly, on
Things
the
are
work
going
time,
to
I'd rather
change.
wait the 30 more days until we've.
Get
done
the
our
actual numbers.
period, so that I can close out, and get, I haven't even been able to do, for your fourth quarter reports yet. That's because we have a 60-day accrual process, for year end.
This RFP is gonna take a little time.
yeah, this will, I mean, we'll have to put
There,
out at least
so-
for 30 days on the RFP and, a week or two to prepare it, have it go through legal, then another so many days to go through the actual RFPs and everything else. So it's,
We can do what you're asking for. I just think it's gonna take a little bit of time. There's no sense in doing it right now if we don't know.
So how the process would work for that is I would take, our year-to-date totals where we're at, through September. I would send them off to Scenario, they would upload it. That would give us year-to-date totals, and then we would do whatever analysis we're gonna do. And it would be completely different within a week, as soon as we ran another accounts payable run, because we're still reviewing, so I really wouldn't recommend doing that right now. I'd really just as soon wait until regular.
I think your question was a timeline when we would get it, not
Sure.
asking for it immediately.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Just asking,
in
Yeah.
December, I would
Yeah.
say in December, January, you would have it before you're having to make a vote on the general contractor at that point. That's what I would assume. We would have that. We would have contract with this design bid build first, firm. So we're into January before we're even putting out bid for general contractors, and then we'll have the actual report available at that time.
I just want to explain for a minute how we ended up with Spicer, and back when they were doing the abatement, we knew we would need architectural services. We knew we were gonna have to put fire suppression in that building and whatnot. And there was an RFP that went out, for architectural services, design services. There was a mandatory pre-bid walkthrough attended by 3 firms. None of those firms gave us a price. None of them were interested in bidding on it. That was, I believe, 2023, back in that post-COVID boom when everyone was really busy. Construction was just taking off. I think everybody just looked at the project and didn't want it. So I know that Nicole at the time reached out to Mid-Michigan Development Corp. They suggested get in touch with Spicer. Got in touch with Spicer. Spicer said, yeah, we can work on that. That's how we ended up going to Spicer initially. And maybe after this RFP, we stay with Spicer, maybe we don't. Just, I think we need to keep an open mind about it at this point. And wait for that RFP, see what happens. And then develop a timeline and budget forecast. Go from there. Anything else?
So for
Yes.
the minutes, do I put that this will be forwarded on to the regular meeting to be voted upon?
I don't think we need to. I don't
You're
think
not
we have
gonna
to
don't need-
vote on, yeah.
We don't need to vote on it, 'cause we're just having him gather information.
Get the
So
RFP
just
done.
gather-
Yeah,
Get the RFP, so
done.
direction.
Send it out.
Should I put that?
Just that, you
The
know,
board prioritizes the administrator.
You don't want a board vote
No,
on a motion to seek proposals?
well, we can't do it.
Why do we need a
Not
vote?
today, but.
Right, that's what I'm
meeting.
asking. If you want it on the agenda so that you guys vote to do this
and then,
on a vote for the public.
then if you want to do it for a vote, I can start the preparation for it.
I think it'd be a good idea because you get the criticism that you're not
So
doing your due diligence.
But I want to get started on that as soon as possible.
We're all here today,
General public's perception.
and we're all
Yeah.
telling the administrator, yes, send this out for an
But
RFP.
if you think, if you look back at what's binding on
We can give
administration
him
is,
the authority.
and it's motions and resolutions. So we look at those 3, like, you know, technically you could say what you want unless it's in a motion, minute or resolution. It's not binding, so maybe it's just better just to put it into the regular meeting next Tuesday. And just
Wait,
basically a motion to authorize
The administrator. to
the
proceed.
administrator proceed with the drafting of an RFP for design, bid, build. For,
Take some of the criticism away.
so that's. That,
I'm just
good.
putting you forwarding it onto the next agenda.
okay,
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments? from Anybody?
I thought we were gonna get done with 15 minutes today. It was a short meeting. but-
Why did you think that?
There.
Okay. I think that was pretty productive. That was helpful. And I've got to find my agenda, but I think next is general public comment.
No, there you go.
Intergovernmental affairs, administrator controller issues, unfinished business, new business, we have none. General public comment. Anyone for general public comment? Yes, sir.
If you want to see a wonderful Halloween display, come to Shepherd. Kent Roth, the owner of the Shepherd Bar and Restaurant, is gonna have his pumpkin displays. It's really something to see.
Nice.
Okay, I have Karen Jackson on here I just asked to unmute
This weekend.
for the general public comments. Trust.
Okay,
Karen, can you hear us?
yes. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. You're, we can hear-
Okay. Had trouble trying to get that thing to click. So the flood in 2017, the COVID-19 response in 2020, these 2 disasters have something in common. Isabella County led a quick, unwavering response to these emergencies. They collaborated with community organizations, other government agencies, and kept everyone informed. The comparison to our evacuation of the campus in 2023 is drastic. While our initial response was quick, Our secret committees and siloed mentality have fostered a lack of communication and increased conflict. It seems we have lost sight of the reason we evacuated our main campus to begin with. Wasn't that in response to the threat of asbestos, and weren't we trying to keep our employees and communities safe? Unfortunately, all of these disasters contributed to a sluggish economy recovery, and with only 3 years between disasters, we hadn't fully recovered from one before we were hit again. While I believe that we need to proceed with the administration building project, we also need to remember that all of these disasters have caused a continuum of trauma to our employees, our community, and our economy. We are fortunate to have a resilient community rich in history and diversity, looking for ways to preserve and yet improve the county for future generations. I suggested from the beginning that we get input from the community and that would be crucial. Recovery from our latest disaster will take years, and it's an all-consuming financial, physical, and emotional process affecting the whole community. Unfortunately, true recovery won't begin until we create a path forward. Spicer is not our enemy. They have a proven track record, and we need to understand that further delays, no matter who we choose, are only going to contribute to a longer economic recovery affecting future generations, which will greatly affect our long-range forecast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other general public comment? Okay, announcements, any announcements? Yes, sir.
Shepherd Pumpkins, come to the end.
Pumpkin
You want that
comes
twice in the
in.
minutes?
The
arrow down.
And I just wanna, I'll agree with Karen Jackson when she said Spicer is not our enemy. I didn't want to convey that they are. I just think at this point, we can look at other RFPs. They have a proven record of working with us, and maybe we stay with Spicer. But let's look at what else is out there. And that's all I have. Any other announcements? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Adjourn.